Edit. Okay, I'm live on YouTube, live on Instagram. I'm going live at a different time today because my afternoon was crazy. I had team meetings, I had client work, potential client calls, speed networking event, so much good things, and a sick child. I am also sick, thank you to my husband. Um, so if I'm coughing, for doing that. I apologize, but I said I was going to go live and I am going live. And my husband, of course, is trying to call me now, trying to go live. Um, and I'm excited about this topic. That's why I wanted to continue to go live, even though I'm not feeling the best today. But this topic is something I love talking about. And it's something I've noticed a lot with clients, other friends, other businesses, something that I've experienced in my business. And there are a lot of topics around this that focus on just solely the money of growing your business and scaling your business and making sure you have money for your hires and talking about who to hire, when to hire, and all those good things. But today we're going to be talking about the logistics and the little pieces that are behind the scenes that get missed operationally and honestly from a team perspective. So if you're new to my channel, new to my page, hi, I'm Emma. I'm an operations and systems consultant, and I specifically work with growing remote teams because the nuances are a little bit different. So today we're going to talk about the growing pains, what they are, what you could expect to see if you're experiencing these growing pains. We're going to talk about a few tips to help overcome these growing pains that have worked for my clients and myself. So, growing pains in a business. Obviously, there's the growing pains of having enough capital, having enough money to pay people, making sure that's in your budget, making sure that's in your pricing, and also making sure that's in your timeline and schedule. So, that's something that gets missed a lot is factoring in that yes, it's going to help free up your time, but depending on the efficiency of that new person, and the process that you're putting in place of okay, we need to now make sure there's quality checks in place, there's review time, there's time if you have full time versus contractors. So, are you factoring in the new timelines with your client work or for your services if that makes sense for you? Because I know coaches, that's going to be a little bit different. Coaches aren't going to have that issue as much as my service providers who are listening and or product based businesses that are listening in. Um, so making sure you are factoring that into the schedule, that's a growing pain so that you can provide quality work and you aren't assuming that you're going to have the same turnaround time right away. And making sure you have those quality checks in place and work is not getting missed. So, one thing that happens a lot is missed work or things falling through the cracks. This is going to tie into another topic that we're going to talk about in a little bit. Um, but you don't have clear roles defined within your business. So sometimes missed work is because of you're not communicating clear expectations with your employees or your new hires, or there's no transparency in assigned tasks. And honestly, confusion will lead to inaction. If no one's sure who's going to do it, more often than not, the human psychology is, well, same thing, we'll go back to mom mentality. Someone will do it or someone else has got it. So if it's not clearly communicated, clearly expected of them, sometimes they just won't do it. And work gets missed because there is no transparency. Um, so that leads into communication issues. And this I'm tying into HR policies not being in place because I see this go hand in hand with my growing businesses that maybe are just hiring for the first time or haven't really thought about this when they go to hire is what is my communication policy like? When are our team response times and what pieces do we need to have in place for taking time off, like based on the roles that you have. So a lot of the times this is with my teams that are contractors or who have predominantly with work with contractors, um, you can't really set the hours. I mean, you can ask them to work certain hours, but depending on your scope of work and the type of contractor, they're going to work the hours they want to work. So, what is your policy and procedure going to be for working hours, taking time off, communicating that to you? Because I've seen this happen a lot. Is they will hire people and a contractor just won't communicate that they're going to be gone for a week or two, or maybe they're sick even for the day, and there's a deadline that day, or something pops up in an emergency and they're trying to get a hold of you, and no one knows because there's just no communication policy in place of this is how you have to notify me. Um, and when you should, because sometimes just people don't think about that because they're not in a typical role. Um, and then where and how to communicate. That's another one that I think is overlooked on communication issues. And this kind of ties into what we're going to talk about with virtual headquarters and teams who communicate via Slack. They're not sure where to put it. So things are ending up in Slack. Sometimes they're ending up in the project management tool if you have one, or they're in Google Chat or here or there, and everything's like overwhelming and there's no like one set place. So, really deciding for your company, or this is like the tip, one of the tips below, but I'll re summarize everything. Um, Having like a dedicated spot for your communication, and like having a written policy of this is how the team communicates, this is what can be expected. Like I have a team who communicates in Facebook Messenger, and it's really, really confusing and overwhelming. Yeah. Because things get lost all the time. So making sure you have a way to link it back to a project management tool. So that's why Slack is nice. Even if it's an email, like with ClickUp, Asana, um, I'm trying to think, Asana and ClickUp are always the first couple that come to mind. And Monday, they will link to Slack and they will link to your email so that you can create tasks or reminders really quickly for yourself. Um, So this kind of goes back to the missed work thing, but there's a lack of job clarity and training. So this goes hand in hand with not having a clear role. And so people are going to miss work, but the job clarity, it just provides no accountability. There's no training. People just hire and then they don't create any training ahead of time, or they kind of let them do a sink or swim type of approach. And that's going to go right back to the growing pain of missed work, bad quality, um, and those types of issues. So, lack of job clarity and training can be addressed, should be addressed before you decide to hire. This is another big one. It also ties into missed work, quality, and confusion is wrong people for the roles. So, like my clients I'll see didn't hire, and this also goes with not having clarity on the role. If you have clarity on the role, you'll be able to get um, get a better result for your people. So if you have job clarity, you're less likely to hire the wrong person. So you won't be putting people in the wrong seats or creating a toxic work culture. And it is just not good for the culture that you're building, which also ties into another point of if you have the wrong people, it's going to potentially build a bad culture. And I know of a couple of businesses that I've been in slash helping, that they have a terrible culture and they have terrible habits that they have let go. And now we are now trying to change them because they had the wrong people in their seats. So that made it, and that takes time to change. So this also goes with not having clear vision or goals, which is also leads to confusion and overwhelm within businesses. Is they don't have values in place, they don't have a mission statement, they don't have clear goals. So the culture can get out of control really quickly. And this is something that people don't think about when they're building their business, that it is so important. It's a real differentiator in bringing on the right people that you want, because when you hire, people want to stay in your business because they believe in your mission and because they enjoy the people that they work with. If you don't enjoy the people that you work with, you're not going to want to stay there very long. So, in all, it also goes back, everything kind of ties back to you feel confusion, you feel overwhelmed because you think you're like, oh, I'm hiring all these people. It's going to be great. I'm going to free up all this time. But then you're still feeling like you're drowning. You feel like there's constant fires. You're not meeting the demand that you have. You feel like clients are upset or not getting the service that you promised. Um, and there's no clear direction for anybody involved. So you're just kind of like going from one goal to the next, or just trying to survive the day to day, which is something I hear a lot from entrepreneurs and small business owners who are in such a crucial step in their business. And so some tips to avoid these. I know I've said sprinkled a few of these in throughout, but sorry, my nose is running so bad today. It's like it is just terrible being sick. But tips to help you avoid all this is to create a virtual headquarters for your team. So one centralized spot for information, resources, links, data, project management, marketing, all of that. Create a virtual headquarters, especially if you're on a remote team, so that it's one-stop shop, centralized space, place for you and your team. Create SOPs. Now, people will sometimes let them use this as a way to not hire or prevent themselves from hiring. Creating SOPs is definitely really important before you hire, and having these procedures at least somewhat documented is really, really important before, but they do not have to be perfect. Don't let that perfection syndrome stop you from hiring who you need. You should have a clear idea of what you want that role to look like and what you want them to do before you hire. You definitely want to identify 3 to 5 metrics that that person should be achieving and have a rough outline of SOPs, because if you something is better, or a little bit is better than perfect sometimes. And you can have that person help you build those SOPs out if they have that skill set, but you don't want to just hire someone on in the team and then just kind of like throw them to the wind or throw them to the water and be like, oh, I don't have anything. Um, just go do this and like expect them to know. Depending on the level that you're hiring at, I see this happen a ton where a CEO hires a low level, like I'm not saying low level, but like a $5 or $10 VA, and expect them to understand right off the bat what they want done, how they want it done, how they specifically do it, or they expect them to have all this knowledge. Well, you get what you pay for in a lot of cases. So if you're not vetting them or willing to pay a little bit more for someone who's a consultant or an expert, you're gonna need pretty thorough SOPs. I've come in and built a lot of SOPs for people, and but that's because I'm at that level now that I come in and do things. And sometimes you'll find a unicorn of people who don't need SOPs and are taking initiative, but most cases that's not going to happen. Adopt a continuous improvement mindset and culture. So what that means is do not just put all these things in place and then think, oh, I'm not going to review this or things aren't going to get better. You definitely want everyone in your team and everyone in your business to adopt the mindset and culture of things could always be better. Small tweaks are better than big changes. Making sure we're always thinking like, how can we do this better? How can we do this easier? How can we do this more efficiently, cheaper? Getting into that lean business model is really, really important. Because yes, there certain things will get you through in the short term, but it's not going to work and be sustainable in the long term. Sorry, I'm like shaking the table. So if you're on YouTube, you'll see like the computer kind of jump a little. You create clear goals for everyone. That kind of goes back to having that clarity on who you're hiring. And I kind of already said that, but have a clear outline of what you want that person to do or complete, and make sure you outline like miscellaneous things that could pop up, but also reoccurring. It's always good to have those reoccurring tasks and stability for them so that it's predictable. And then 3 to 5 metrics that you're going to be measuring them on. Like an example of this is my lead gen assistant slash marketing assistant. She has, her goal is to send X amount of initial DMs to people, or connection messages to people, and then pitch me on X amount of podcasts or collaborations a week, and then follow up with them. So those are metrics that we're tracking to. And then Number 5 is don't skip steps in the hiring process. If you have that clear role, clear vision, clear mission statement that we've kind of talked about, which everyone seems to think is very silly, you don't need it. If you're at that point of scaling and you're a serious business owner, you need that mission statement. You need values that your company is going to be defined by, because this business is bigger than you and it will live on beyond you eventually if you want it to. If you're building a scalable, growable business, you're not going to be in it forever, nor do you want to be in it forever. So don't skip steps in your hiring. If you, I just went on a tangent, but mission, values, goals, if you have all that, you should have a pretty clear picture of who you want to hire, and don't skip steps, and always trust your gut when it comes to hiring, because these people are going to be a representation of you, your brand, your business. um, and I see a lot of people just hire in a rush and they skip these steps because they're like, I just need some help, and they end up wasting more time and more money, or they get scammed. So really important not to skip those steps. um, this was a quick live today, which was good. If you have questions, drop them in the comments. If you're watching the replay, I'd love to hear your biggest takeaway. Check out some of my other free resources. If you're on YouTube, they're linked below. If you have any questions, like I said, drop them in the comments, and I hope you have a great week.